Welcome back to Magical Musings with Frater O.D. In the last episode, I went on a reading a piece that's very steeped in what might seem like anti-establishment rhetoric, and in some ways, I think that it is easily perceived that way. This episode probably won't be any different because the train of thought that I was on when writing these pieces was clearly trying to dissect where our issues between spirit and matter come from, and why there is such a seeming disparity, even in the occult communities, between spirit and matter. Why spirit has been preferred over the last 3,000 years to matter. Where did that come about? It doesn't seem to have always been that way. There hasn't always seemed to be this necessity to escape, which means that something has gone awry in our own perception. One of the first rules or laws that I explore in these musings is that of perception. And how has our perception become so skewed that we can no longer recognize the value of matter and spirit being unified as one, instead of being these one that is evil and we must escape from, this dualistic construct, or one that is preferable, spirit, right? If matter then comes from spirit, how can, if spirit being preferable, matter born from that spirit, how is it that we get to this place of matter now being bad? Where's the root of corruption? And I don't believe in my own mystic musings that it comes from matter itself, but largely from a limited perspective that we have. And so in this, I will continue down this road that I have so chosen for this inaugural season of Magical Musings. And I will wax poetically on our turbulent modern predicament. In the present age, a sinister dystopia has unfurled from the depths of late-stage capitalism. Here I go again. Where the very essence of reason has been encumbered by an ungainly shroud of irrationality. Our insatiable hunger to unravel the intricacies of natural law has come at a most dire expense. Bereft of any reverence for the spiritual, this rampant materialism, paired with the rot festering within capitalist ideology, has conspired to guide civilization over the precipice of ruin, from which we might never return. An oops on our epitaph would be a sad story indeed. And so we find ourselves bound by the perennial specter of polarity, unable to grasp a synthesis that might finally unite us. By our refusal to acknowledge the spirit, driven in our relentless pursuit of material gain, we have perpetuated the eternal cycle of power, corruption, and collapse. It is this secret history of the world, hidden from all but the most enlightened few who have tried to pass it down to us, the occult philosophers, the magicians, the sages, the prophets, the witches, countless sage-like individuals that offer us a timeless lesson, a grave warning, and perhaps a glimmer of hope for the future. Behold the majesty, the awe, and the solemn truth of history's darkest secrets. So in our time, we prostrate ourselves to the God that is not the all, the God without spirit, the God of the void. We adhere to the law of progress at all costs, blinded by a virulent form of malefic reason that binds our ability to see the destruction wrought by our grasping at the unattainable, the eternal life in the material. And yet within this darkness, a glimmer of hope remains. The mystical power of synthesis still remains, embodied by the immanent numeral of 3. How it gives birth to a new octave, that of 4, and an offering of the keys to unlock entirely new planes of existence. This uncharted domain throbs with untapped prospects, awaiting discovery by the inquisitive seeker. This realm represents the very core of perennial philosophy, the sorcerer's clandestine truth, a knowledge that holds the potential to awaken the slumbering reservoirs of our own innate abilities. Central, though, to this arcane wisdom lies a profound understanding of the divine will. Unlike the myriad pursuits that plague humanity now, the divine will operates without inflicting harm or extracting costly tolls from other beings. It stands as the panacea to cure all myriad afflictions and illuminate the path towards a more radiant future. And so it is written in the secret history of the world, chronicled through the eyes of the magician, that power treads a never-ending dance, shuffling from one structure to another. Every tale that weaves itself through the tapestry of our narrative teeters betwixt the worlds of can and cannot. With firm resolve, we must grasp the golden thread of perennial philosophy, breaking free from the self-imposed limitations that we have in favor of transcendent spirit. Let us remain ever vigilant lest we fall prey to the mirage of materialism that threatens our very salvation. This is the sickness of the materialist denial of the spirit, the imminent and evident fate and the destruction of civilization built on false reason, material values, and capitalism left to its own devices has proved itself to be a decaying proposition, funded by the mythology of progress and the malefic pursuit of science, religiously adherent to solely the material plane. It was a world that promised limitless possibilities as we dove headlong into the abyss to penetrate and illuminate the secrets of nature. To better the lives of humankind was the mission. And thus we have, in some respects, increased the scope of the human in longevity, but not in quality. We are but shallow husks living without purpose. We've dominated the landscape and brought it under what we believe to be our sovereignty. However, any person, wise or not, can see that something is amiss. Some dark specter lingers beneath the curtain, behind the curtain, pulling at levers without care for an aim that was born of the fool left to his own devices. Is this how human stories end? In a whimpering fit of tragedy? Or is there a synthesis? A path, perhaps not of exclusion, but of inclusion. A radical path of acceptance and eclecticism, rejoining the poles into a hallowed unity. A return to the sacred number 3, the triune, by which we can access a new world through the power of the number 4. More will be revealed on this concept in time, and throughout every revelation, every collapse of civilization, every hubris that wrought destruction on the species and other species, a golden thread has remained pure, unadulterated, aware, and awake, simply waiting for the mind to pluck it from the ether. This golden thread, called the perennial philosophy, as the sages of the aeons call it, is evident to those who strive with all their will to attain synthesis, to attain the magician's secret, the philosopher's stone, the sight to see the world as it is behind the curtain, behind the tyrannical superego bolstered with the unholy weapons of a sickened science. We now endeavor to illuminate your mind to the possibility not of can't, or of boundaries, but of a limitless can. For all can be attained through the knowledge of the divine will. And unlike the ego's sickened will, the divine will operates at no cost to another. The divine will, animated properly within the soul, is the panacea for all. That is the aim of this work, to clarify the methods in their most base form necessary to begin the process of solar evolution within the soul of the practitioner, that thine will might be subdued through practice and thine divine will revealed. Will you grasp and hold close the sacred golden thread? Or will you pursue the myth of progress to the gates of insanity and death? Now, there's a lot of heavy rhetoric in that piece, and ultimately I think what I was getting at in taking this system that we've all bought into head on was that there's nobody coming to save us. There's nothing coming to save us from ourselves. We create the world through our actions, through our thoughts, through our words. And we are in this pickle. It is what it is. We have to accept it. Once we accept it, then we can change it. And as magicians, we have to understand that to change things, we first have to understand what they are, how they operate. Specifically ourselves. We can't do any of this work on the exterior level until we've done the interior work. And it all begins with perception. It begins with the things I'm railing about in the piece are more a reflection of our inner problem. The rampant disregard of the spirit through materialist science, the shuttering up of religious constructs that held order for thousands upon thousands of years. The shutting off of these traditions and systems has led us to a point of purposelessness, of no meaning left in society other than production units. Everything that we are right now is a number equatable to gross GDP, some form of material, and that's it. There is no meaning. There is no meaning to us. We're reduced to social security numbers and things of that nature. And so very few of us get to define what our time in this incarnated body is. If you manage to wake up long enough and find yourself questioning some of these things, then you're a lucky one. Even luckier still if you do something about it. Even more incredible and more miraculous that you're able to break hold of these systems that are hand-fed to us. So it's like nobody's fault, either. It's something that has gradually happened generation to generation. We've lost the critical faculty of generating meaning through life. And it's very difficult to break free from that system. And when you do, at least I did, you feel a little paralyzed. You go, okay, so I see it for what it is. And I think more people are seeing it for what it is. They're still very veiled, and they want to rage against a system, but they don't want to fix anything. It's very important that you do something from this state. And the first and most important thing is realize your divine will through whatever method you can find that works best for you. That can be through a magical path, through a shamanic path, that can be through a mystic path of revelation. Just pick your poison and get to work. That's the ultimate goal. And what I was hoping to achieve when I was working on this piece. But we can't change the external world until we change our internal world. And that takes a tremendous amount of work. You can't start, proselytizing and preaching this stuff until you've done the work yourself as well. I can't fully admit to you and say 100% that I'm done with any of that. I'm done. I'm in a constant state of trying to revamp myself, trying to understand myself in the context of the microcosm and how that's going to impact the macrocosm. Even now in doing this, I'm going, are you sure you're totally ready? But that's where it starts, is the inner work. And the inner work has to be done. It has to be done in your way. You cannot follow somebody else's path, not to a letter. The people who have come before us that have laid down these paths, they laid them down as guideposts. And it's almost like there's a giant circle and there's quite a few paths, right? And it's almost like you're looking at the top down of a mountain, the topography of a mountain, right, in this map. And everywhere around the mountain, there's different sages, and they've all hammered in their guideposts. Well, you go up this trail, and then you take a left over here, and you see the knotted wood, and then you head over this way, and then that's how I got there. What they don't tell you is that along the tree line before the summit, there's no more guideposts. There's nobody there to hold your hand. Once you cross past that level and that teacher becomes irrelevant's not the right word, but no longer helpful in directing you, you realize very quickly that you have to do it. And so there's this whole giant centerpiece of that map that's totally uncharted. And that's where you come in. And that's when you summit, that's when you figure it out for yourself. And then you find yourself coming back down the mountain, finding other people along the way. And you go, oh my God, they're just as lost as I was. So it becomes our journey after that, when we get to the bottom of the mountain, to chart a path for others that may resonate with your story. They don't have to. They're never gonna be able to live your entire life. So they have to follow their own. And what we leave behind needs to facilitate that, instead of this rigid doctrine that we find in many, many paths. You have to follow it this way or else it won't work. That's fair. A great many traditions hold that. I don't necessarily believe it myself. I think you've got to find your own way, and some of those paths can be helpful. But eventually you leave them. Eventually you find your own way up the hill. And that leads us to the next piece, and I'll talk about that in the next episode, on the more personal path through the more shamanic current. I dislike the term anyways, but it's the best one that we have for explaining these more animistic practices that seem to have a great amount of corollary crossover between cultures. They seem to be what we were operating with before we had the more religious constructs and doctrines to ascending this mountain, and working with what I like to call the weave. So we'll get to that in the next episode, and I hope you've enjoyed this.